Hey guys, I haven't played Assassin in ages, and I never really did anything with the Assassin's poison stacking ability, so I decided to try a spell-based poison build again, and this time I think it turned out to be pretty good. I was quite surprised how well this build worked in the end, despite not having a lot of life or mitigation, and if you use the special sextant for this build, then it turns into a monster clear speed build. So in this video I'm gonna be adding a bit more information to my previous video, and later on I'm gonna talk a bit more in details about this build, but as always you can find timestamps in the video description. Now, some may still remember that around 1 year ago I was still using 3 life flasks in almost all of my builds. But then I realized it's kind of silly and I was working my way up to only using 2 life flasks. And I have been doing that for a couple leagues now. And I was kind of working my way up to using only 1 life flask. Because based on other people's builds, it seems like the less life flask you have, the stronger the build is. So I thought I'm just gonna go straight into using no life flask on a life build. And that is what I did, so it must be a strong build then. And indeed it is, until you get one shot. But I was really surprised how well I could survive without any life flasks, with just basically life gear on hit and more of Conquest helmet. And the helmet gives 20% of damage taken gain as life over 4 seconds when hit, and this can be improved by the life recovery rate. So initially I did try to stack a lot of life recovery rate on the belt, on Watcher's Eye, on the Pantheon power, which is conditional, but still I tried that. But in the end I decided it's not really worth it. I mean, it's not really worth stacking a lot of life recovery rate. In the end I was able to stack 8 to 9% increased life recovery rate, but there wasn't really a noticeable difference in my life regen. It doesn't exactly show as life regen, so it's hard to tell how much is it doing the work. Life gain on a hit, however, is not affected by life recovery rate, because it is instant and it doesn't have rate. So later on I stopped focusing on life recovery rate, and my build and Watcher's Eye could be different without the life recovery rate. However, you do need Vitality's Watcher's Eye with life gain on a hit, especially for the build like this where you focus on damage over time, so you can't really benefit very well from leech. So indeed I am using Vitality as one of my auras, and I do end up having around 700 life regen. But the way I survive is mostly through the temporal chain and the aspect of the spider which slows down nearby enemies, and then life gain on hit from the Watcher's Eye. And as you can see, I am able to farm tier 16 maps just fine, even without the special sextant mod. And if you missed my previous video explaining how I achieved over 4000% movement speed and so much damage, to break it down quickly, golden rule to reflect poisons back on me, more of Conquest helmet to be unaffected by those poisons, otherwise it would kill me, and then a special sextant mod which gives 5% movement speed per each poison on me and 10% damage, generic damage per poison on me. So I get around 3 to 5000 increased generic damage when I'm entering the tier 16 guardian fight, and then those guardians just melt in seconds. I don't even need to be next to them, I've just released Valblade Vortex and it just destroys them. The issue I had is if you reach 1000 poison stacks, it completely kills your FPS, and it is not a visual issue. There is nothing visually happening, and you can see the poison stacks at the top left corner. Some people suggested to use predictive mode instead of lockstep mode. I tried that and it changed nothing. Another question was how rare is that sextant mod, and I think it is pretty much the same chance of getting that mod as any other mod. I was getting it pretty frequently, maybe just the game wanted me to play with that insane speed. And if you are speed farming like that, or like with Headhunter, you are gonna be using sextant mods anyway. It's kind of silly to not use sextant mods on tier 16 maps if you are constantly farming them for profit. Especially because that mod adds an additional poisonous monsters. And as you know, more monsters, the better the chances of getting some better loot. And that's the main thing that you want in your maps, more enemies. So in the end, it's pretty cheap to run that mod because you are always getting some returns. Another thing is that you can actually do this on many other different builds, not just this one. But the extra explosions do help with the clear speed a lot. By the way, these explosions are coming from 2 obliteration ones. Minion builds would not be affected by this because it specifically says players gain those stats. Another thing that people sometimes miss that you have to be unaffected by poison. Poison immunity would remove poison stacks. And actually a flask with poison immunity would also remove the lag if you get over 1000 poison stacks. Or you can just use the portal to go back and forth and then remove the stacks. Oh, one last thing, the Noxio strike from Assassin, 5% increased poison duration for each poison you have inflicted recently. Which means if you want to get insane poison duration, you have to apply insane amount of hits in the last 4 seconds. And Blade Vortex at 10 stacks only hits 7.5 times per second. So over 4 seconds it only hits 30 times. But because Golden Rule reflects the poisons back to me, I double the amount of poisons inflicted recently. So I end up capping at 60 poison stacks over 4 seconds. That is of course if I'm not using Blade Vortex to help stack poisons. Now I'm gonna talk about the items, skills, links, and then passive skill tree. Right, so let me talk about the items. So I have a weapon swap for clear speed and for single target. For clear speed I am using 2 corrupted obliteration swans with increased area of effect. That helps quite a lot with the explosions AoE. And then for single target I do swap to Apex Rage ones, which did get buffed this league. We now have a lot more added chaos damage to spells, and each of them gives basically 20% more poison damage, but reduces the poison duration. Another thing that can help increase the poison damage very easily and pretty cheaply is to use essence to craft 40% poison damage on rings. And you just need that mod, you guarantee that mod, and then you just try to get some life and some resistances on the rings. On the amulet I decided to go with this one to use the Blasphemy Temp chain. I thought about the Chaos Impressions one, but that was way more expensive, and well, I wouldn't be as tanky, I guess. I would probably be dying more. I would have more damage a bit, but I would rather live and have a bit more damage. Then of course the helmet. I bought the perfect 20% damage taken gain as life over 4 seconds, but you don't need that for this build. In fact, you don't even need this this helmet at all for this build. You only need it if you are going to be running the special sextant mode that I talked about. But other than that, the helmet can be basically any. The body armor, I keep on reusing this body armor, and you probably saw it in my previous builds. It's very cheap to get 6-link sacrificial garb and then just craft life and hopefully some resistances. And it's also pretty easy to color whichever colors you want, because it's equal chance of rolling all the colors. Then I'm using Venomous Weave, my favorite gloves, because it synergizes with this pretty well. You do want more damage, and it does give that 15% more damage, and it slows down enemy movement speed, which is also helpful, especially when combined with Temporal Chain. Temporal Chain is slowing down action speed, which includes attack and cast speed, but Venomous Weave is only for movement speed reduction. Then the belt, like I said, you don't really need life recovery rate, so you could use some different belt. You could even craft with the fossils. Chaos damage or physical damage would work as well. The boots, nothing special, just get enough resistances, I guess, and as much life as you can, because as you can see I don't really have a lot of life. For the flasks, granite for extra mitigation, or at least some mitigation, because otherwise I don't really have any mitigation. Diamond flask, because you do need diamond flask, because this is assassin. Then sulfur flask, because it also gives you regen. If you're using life recovery rate, that regen will be boosted by things like life recovery rate from the belt or Watcher's Eye, and it also gives increased generic damage. And then this one is, I guess it can be called a fake life flask. You get instant heal for up to 100% of your life. By the way, you want this flask to be without quality, because the quality basically increases the duration of the degen from this flask. And this flask does 8% of your maximum life taken as chaos damage per second. But that can be reduced with your chaos resistance. And the good part is, when you're using Golden Rule, for each poison stack you get also 1 chaos resistance. So I'm basically always capped at my chaos resistance. And sometimes I get even thousands of chaos resistance. Of course it's still capped at 75. And then Quicksilver Flask for moving fast. Now on the main skills, Blade Vortex, I bought level 21, quality 23. It's actually pretty cheap, so it is linked with Poison support gem, because I do need chance to poison. Deadly Ailments, Wild Toxins, Unleash, and then Void Manipulation. I do swap Unleash, at least I try to swap Unleash to Unbound Ailment, but Unleash is so pleasant for mapping. You just cast it once and you get 4 Vortex easily. So you just stop, cast it, move on, stop, cast, move on, and it's very easy to maintain 10 stacks. While with Unbound Ailments, it takes much more time to get the stacks going. Even with these fans, which do give a lot of cast speed, it still kind of takes some time. So Unleash is very pleasant to do it while mapping, to use it while mapping. Then I got, let's see, cast and damage taken, Immortal Call, and then Phase Run. Phase Run is very nice for moving fast, especially if you can also squeeze in increased duration. So as you can see, I can move pretty fast without any other shenanigans. Oh, by the way, I do have cast and damage taken setups inside Apex Rage ones, which are not corrupted. I do have cast and damage taken linked with Ball Lighting and Bladefall, and this is just to get life on hit from the Vitality Swatcher side, basically. Another one is Spell Totem, Multi Totem, and then Wither. And I only use it against single targets, so I do keep it in Apex Rage ones. Then I do have Vitality, Malevolence, Enlighten level 3, and Flame Dash. And you kind of do need Enlighten level 3. And I reserve 100% of my mana. But to cast spells, I have Eldritch Battery. I'm gonna talk about that a bit later when I show passive skill tree. Then I do have Temporal Chains, Blasphemy, increased AoE, and then Summon Stone Golem, but Golem keeps dying pretty easily, and it's not really helpful at that much, but it does give some regen, and especially since I do have life recovery rate increase, so it does give me more than normally. It doesn't show in the tooltip here, but I do actually have almost 700 life regen per second. So the passive skill tree. First I took Noxious Strike and then started doing the poison build. Basically after level 38, when you can put on Deadly Ailments and all the other support gems, then I started using as a poison build. Then went for the Toxic Delivery, then for Unstable Infusion, and then for Deadly Infusion. So, and I do have Perfect Agony, so the crit multiplier also, by the way, because of this, when you crit, you deal 30% more damage with poison. So I do have also 4 power charges, I believe. Yes, 4 power charges. You don't need more because I can reach, I believe, 96 effective crit chance. So I do have Perfect Agony, and I'm not using Correlator's Flask because I can't really squeeze it in. I mean, if you want, you can, but all it does is increases the poison duration, which isn't really that needed anymore, I think. Yeah, I did travel here to get the skill effect duration for the Blade Vortex. But another thing that I have, well, Golden Rule, Watcher's Eye with the Malevolence, life recovery rate, which you do not need, but you do need Vitality, Watcher's Eye with life gain on hit, and then something else, maybe Malevolence. Ailments, you inflict, deal damage faster while affected by Malevolence, but that could be a bit expensive. Or you could get you are unaffected by poisons while affected by Malevolence and use a different helmet if you want to run those sextants. And then another thing that I do have is Glorious Vanity, and which converts this one, and this is basically to give me more energy shield, and I'm not using Mind Over Matter. You may want to use Mind Over Matter, but I'm not a fan of using Mind Over Matter Eldritch Battery, because if enemies hit you and you lose all ES, you can't even cast anything, because, well, I don't like that. But I guess you could do that, and it doesn't have to be anything special, but I did roll a pretty good one. It gives physical damage and leech, physical damage leech from this one. This Glorious Vanity converts every single node in the radius to something else. Something completely random, so it's pretty hard to get a good one, but you also don't need, in this case, all you need is basically any Glorious Vanity, and that Glorious Vanity for the Rianis. And then it will convert this one into Corrupted Soul, which gives 20% of your maximum life as energy shield. And that gives a big buffer for your skills, because when you're using Apex Rage ones, they do increase the mana cost by 80% combined. And the rest of the passive skill tree, just getting AoE, getting life, getting enough crit chance, getting poison thing, going here to get enough life. It's pretty a long travel. As you can see, I have Eldritch Battery. Oh, by the way, you do need this one. So I took this one, and with the level 3 Enlighten, I can squeeze in all these auras. Yeah, that is pretty much all. So the next build, I'm gonna do some tests with the Ignite Infernal Blow, and very specific thing that I want to test, so that may be a complete garbage build if it doesn't work the way I imagine. In that case, I don't know what my build is gonna be, so we'll see. But for now, thank you for watching.